Today's topic, again, make sure you've got your sheet. I'm saying it again in case you're just joining us. I sent this out via email 2 hours ago, and then I put the link in the thread if you need to print it right now. Okay, now, I want to very quickly give you the backstory on where this came from, okay? Hey, everybody, welcome. Vanessa, Carmen, let's see, we've got Debbie, Karen, we've got Texas in here. We've got lots of fun. Here's the backstory of where this came from. I have been using this tool for over a decade now, and it came from, actually, it's an interesting story. About 13 years ago, many of you know that I got my start as an entrepreneur in direct sales. And about 13 years ago, I hit the top position in the company that I'd started with. And, thank heaven, God just allowed me to create very quick success in that company. And I got to the top of that company, and then I went, okay, now what? Now what do I do? Because I wasn't yet 30 at the time. And if I were to have continued along that path, the plan would be that I would stay in that position until their retirement age of 65, which meant that I would have been doing that same thing for another, what would that be, 36 years? And the thought of that, of doing the exact same thing for another consecutive 36 years, if you've got the spirit of entrepreneurship within you, doing the exact same thing for 36 years seems like a very long time. So as that really began to settle in, and I thought, oh boy, what on earth am I going to do with the rest of my life? And that was really what caused me to look at how much time we have. Okay, so I started thinking, what am I going to do? What do I want to do with my life? What would it look like? And I really began to think through a long-term life plan. And that's exactly what we are going to do together today. Okay, so here's the thing. Before we even launch into this, there's one very important concept that I need to explain to you first, because it's an important foundation for every other discussion we will ever have. Okay, so in addition to this, I hope you've got a pen and a piece of paper, because you're gonna wanna take some notes. Okay, so I wanna share with you very quickly the 5 phases of skill mastery. Okay, so write this down. 5 phases of skill mastery. And y'all are doing an awesome job of sharing and tagging, because I cannot wait to give away the first ever copy of the time management ebook. Okay, here we go. 5 phases to skill management. Phase number 1, sorry, not skill management, skill mastery. Phase number 1 is desire. Okay, first you have to become aware you even want to learn the thing, whatever the new thing is. Okay, we have to become aware. That's first. So, for example, many of you know that I have a desire to learn how to speak Hebrew so that I can read the original version of the Bible myself, and so that I can also communicate with some of my family members that speak pretty much only Hebrew. Okay, so learning Hebrew is a big goal for mine. So first, I had to decide I wanted to do it. Okay, that's step number 1. Step number 2, the second phase of skill mastery is you have to learn about the topic. Okay, so that's sort of like you're dancing around the thing before you even decide to tackle the thing, right? You learn about it. So I'll give you another example. Right now, over the last year, I got into fitness training, resistance training, weight training. And before I even got into it a year ago, I had to start off, I was just very curious. I knew I wanted to become fit. I didn't know exactly how I wanted to do it. I knew cardio was no longer just working for me. I needed to do something else. I wanted something a little bit more aggressive than yoga. I didn't know exactly what I wanted. So I was interested, I was looking, I was researching, I started looking at bodybuilding and weight training, and then I started learning about it. I was researching people online, I was following blogs, looking at them on social media. So I was learning about the thing, okay? Phase number 3 is you're going to practice. Phase number 3 is you finally roll up your sleeves and you start practicing. So phase number 1 is desire. Phase number 2 is learning about the topic. And then phase number 3 is you start to actually learn the topic. You start to learn the topic and you start to practice it. Okay, so you will practice this thing. You'll practice the topic repeatedly and at different levels of competence. Okay, so for example, when I'm just learning Hebrew, it's a joke. Like anyone that actually knows how to speak Hebrew is laughing at me, and it sounds so bad as I'm saying it that I'm embarrassed to even say the words out loud. Okay, my son, who is much better than me, is running circles around me, and he's like embarrassed that I'm even trying. Okay, same thing with my weight training. When I'm first learning how to lift weights, when I'm first learning how to do a pull-up, I look like an idiot, like just barely dangling from the bar because I don't even have enough grip strength to hold on the bar. And I'm laughing so hard at myself that then I get a giggle attack and then I can't even hold on. Okay, so that's how, like, you know, one of my key phrases in life is start ugly. So with anything, any skill, we have to be willing to swallow our pride and start ugly. Are y'all with me on this? Okay, I'm just telling you exactly how it looks. It's never really pretty around our house, okay? We got a lot of starting ugly all the time. Okay, phase number 4. Hey, Nahamadina. Hey, hi. Let's see, who else do we have over there? Hannah Esther. Hey, Maricel. Okay, phase, what number are we on now? 4. Are y'all with me? Okay, phase number 4 from the 5 phases of skill mastery. Phase number 4 is you internalize the skill. So I first start with desire, then I learn about it, then I start to learn it and practice. Then phase number 4 is I internalize. So what does that mean? Well, it means I'm going to internalize the skill and it's going to become a part of me. So I become it becomes me. And over time, it will even become like second nature. I don't even have to think about it anymore. Okay, now I am not anywhere close to phase 4 with either my weight training or my Hebrew learning, but guess where I am already at this phase? With long-term life vision, with time management, with war week, okay? And then that's where number 5 comes, which is you become a teacher of the skill. And you become an ambassador of the thing, whatever the thing is. So my question for you right now is think back to the goals that you set for yourself for 2020. How many of you were so willing to stretch out of your comfort zone and create a new reality for yourself that you are willing to tackle a skill that is totally foreign to you right now, and you know that you're going to be doing a whole lot of ugly, okay? You're going to be starting really ugly, and you're going to be living in ugly for quite a while. If we're not willing to start ugly, we will never become great at anything new, which means we will never have the amazing adventures and experiences of living life beyond our comfort zone. Y'all, how sad is that? Okay, now, why is it important that I share with you those 5 phases before we get into our long-term life vision? Well, there's a few reasons. First of all, if you're not willing to learn a new skill and not understand how critically important it is to start ugly, you're never going to even take the time to do this. And let me show you, any of these things that I teach, time management, war week, goal setting, vision casting, becoming a champion, learning how to become unstoppable, all of these skills, learning how to delegate, learning how to outsource, learning how to lead, all of these things require learning and mastering, developing new skills. But do you know how many people, I can't even count them, and I'm not even going to tell you because it's shameful. How many people will like give this a try, or let's say they'll start with something like time management and they'll come back to me, I don't know, a week later or a month later, or even sometimes a year later, and they'll like, yeah, well, I tried it once and it didn't really work for me. You know, I tried that whole vision sheet, or I tried a weekly planning sheet, or I tried to, you know, a monthly strategy session, and it just didn't work for me. You know what I have to say to that? You want to know what I have to say to that? You know why? Because this is a piece of paper, y'all. It's never gonna work for you. Nothing in life works until you do. So that's what we have to understand right now, is that this is skill mastery, and it's also tool mastery, learning how to use the tools and make them a part of you. So I know many of you have skills that I would never, I'm not able to do them at all. Like my mother, I'll give you an example. She could do all 5 of these. She is the epitome of this 5 phases with piano teaching. She's an amazing pianist, and she teaches piano, and she can just sit down and she can play the songs with her eyes closed. She can play the songs with her sleep. But guess what? I never had the stick-to-itiveness as a kid, and much to her deep sorrow, that I never stuck with piano practice. Do I regret it now? Of course. Okay, so we have to have stick-to-itiveness. Okay, write that down. It stick-to-itiveness. Stick-to-itiveness. Okay, it's one word in my world, and that is a critical skill necessary for mastering the game of life and becoming anything beyond just mediocre. Is everybody with me on this? You're going to give me a thumbs up, a yes, or a thumbs up in the comment box. I'll know you're still with me, and we're going to jump into the chart. That was our warm-up. Are you ready? Okay. My mom is still crying. All right. Here we go. First things first. We have to ask ourselves the question, why? Why are we doing this? Why is it important to create a long-term life vision? Okay, if you are familiar with the Simon Sinek YouTube video, Start with Why, it is one of our life policies. Everything that we do in our house, we start with why. And if we cannot understand, if we cannot give a good why, if we cannot clearly define and state why we're going to do something, we don't do it. Always start with why. So back to the Simon Sinek video. He has a phenomenal, it's one of the most watched TED Talk videos of all times. Now there's a full link, and then there's a shorter abbreviated version. The shorter abbreviated version will give you the gist of it. It's all you need to watch. Well, it's not all you need to watch. If you want to watch the longer one, of course, go for it. But at least the shorter one will give you the gist of it if you want to at least check it out and make sure that you're tracking with the concept, okay? But start with why. Why are we going to do this? Well, how many people do you reckon live their entire life without ever once putting a plan together of the goals and dreams they want to achieve? How many people do you think live their entire life not ever even having the gift of the question of what is beyond this little comfort zone that I am living in right now? How many people, they just do what they've always done because it's what they always did, and it's what the people before them always did, and they never had the gift of learning how to dream and learning how to pursue a purpose. So that's what we're going to do right now, because I know a lot of people that I have talked to myself firsthand. They go through the vast majority of their life, you know, on the rat race, or just following, you know, putting one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. And they get to the end of their life, and they feel like they live with such regret because they missed out on so much opportunity because they never thought to put a plan together or to put their dreams together. Now, here's the thing, y'all. In a prior generation, that is totally understandable. It's totally acceptable. Okay, with our parents, our grandparents, their grandparents, it was a different world with our grandparents and beyond. And, you know, coming out of a couple of world wars and many, many immigrants, and people were doing the best that they could just to survive for their families and to provide for their families. In today's world, especially in the Western world or in any of civilized society, there is so much wealth, there is so much abundance, there is so much money going around and to be made. Anyone, and I do mean anyone, can pick themselves up from the ashes and create a fortune. Now, please understand, I'm not just talking about a financial fortune. Okay, we said already a couple of weeks ago that when we're looking at success, and you know, my entire company is called Digging Deeper for Success. The conversation I ever have with any client or student is to get clear on what success means to me. What does success mean to you? You're not chasing somebody else's version of success. You're not chasing your version of success, your neighbor's version of success, or the media's version of success, or your teachers, or your version of success from a decade ago, right? You're getting clear on what success means to you right now in this phase of your life. So maybe it will be financial abundance, maybe it's joy, maybe it's happiness, maybe it's, you know, what does it mean to you? Maybe it's a big family, maybe it's, you know, living under a hut on the beach, whatever it means to you, okay? Now, when you're looking at this sheet, what this is going to allow us to do, I first want you to look at the left-hand side, okay? All the way down this left-hand side, this left-hand column, you're gonna see 8 different categories. And each one of these categories, each one of these rows, they represent a category in something that I call the 8 lanes of life. Now, for those of you that have been with me for longer than 2 or 3 minutes, you have heard me talk about this again and again and again and again. But we're going to go through it again right now under this context, okay? So the one thing I also want to tell you is if you notice that this is in a PDF form, it's not in an Excel or it's not in a Word document, and I did it on purpose because I don't want you getting lazy, okay? If you notice, I'm going to show you 2 different examples. These are different examples of some of my past long-term vision sheets, and you can see that they are handwritten, okay? These particular worksheets, I always write them in a pen or a pencil with my own handwriting instead of typing them. There is something very powerful about sitting everything out. You sit with a pen and a piece of paper and you just start brainstorming and you start dreaming and you start masterminding with yourself, okay? Now, what do the 8 lanes represent? I want to walk through this with you for a second because it's not necessarily what you might think, okay? So these 8 lanes, these represent every area of your life. So when you put all them together, you've got a whole picture. You've got the whole pie, okay? So the first one is your spiritual life, okay? The second one is your family life. The third one is your professional life. That could be your career, your professional development. Okay? The fourth lane is your personal development, your personal growth. The fifth lane is your physical health. Sixth lane is your financial health. Seventh lane is your social life and adventures. And your 8th lane is your community involvement or your philanthropic work. Okay, I'm looking at Nahamadina. She said she was a part of our 90-day blitz about 6 months ago. She was one of our warrior tribe, and she said this exercise opened up a whole new world for her. It's so much fun to go through this every single time. Okay, now, if you have questions about any of this, you're welcome to ask the questions in the chat box, and I will do my best to answer them as we go along. In this particular context, I would prefer to answer them as we go, as opposed to waiting until the end, because it's going to be important that you can grasp this as we're moving through it. Okay, now, I want you to understand that as you're looking at these 8 lanes, it is not necessary that each of these 8 lanes take up equal real estate in your life, okay? So it's not, I never, ever, ever, I shouldn't say never, I rarely, ever use the word balance, because balance is very misleading, because balance could imply, you know, all things must be equal, and that is not the case. I prefer to use the word harmony, where these 8 lanes are working together in your life to create beautiful music, to create the song of your soul, to create your life symphony, if you will. Okay, so I really prefer to think of it as harmony over balance, because there might be times or phases or seasons of your life where you're going to be, you know, like the pendulum will be very heavily swinging in one direction, and then you may swing in a different direction through a different phase, and so you're not going to necessarily be spending a lot of time in all of these phases all of the time. But again, they make up the whole big picture. And for many, many people that have very strong faith beliefs or spiritual faith practices like I do, I know for us, for my family, it's always been this way, that I really see the spiritual piece as like my core. It's in the middle. So if you're looking at like if you know, like the Wheel of Fortune, right, where you've got the circle, and then in the middle of it, there's the nucleus. So all of the other lanes are really branching out from that nucleus. Does that make sense? But for the sake of this exercise, it's much more intuitive to put them in rows. Okay? Now, understanding that everything overlaps and it's not always gonna be just so rigid as these little boxes is a critical piece of understanding this formula, okay? In fact, one of the best ways that I ever learned to describe this, actually not even describing this, but understanding the way women think, is the analogy that men are like waffles and women are like spaghetti. Have y'all heard this description? It's so perfect, it's so classic. And it's very important as we understand this concept. So men are like waffles. What does it mean? Well, like their whole life, their whole world is like a grid, okay? They have, you know, they have a spouse box, they have a kids box, they have a work box, they have a hobbies box, they have an exercise box. Everything in their life, you know, it has its own little box. And as they go from one box to the next, there's a little door in between each box, and the door opens and closes. So when they move from, say, work box to wife box, well, one closes, the other one opens, and they are completely in that new box. They're fully and totally there. Okay, this is not anything to make fun of men. This is actually a biological thing. In fact, when boys are in utero, there is a hormone from the mother that comes through the baby's brain, and literally it's like a natural chemical bath, and it washes the connection between their right brain and their left brain. And so they literally, it damages their ability to multitask, okay? And this is on purpose. It is ordained like this from above so that men can be present to the moment in the fight or flight. Let me take care of my family. Let me provide for my family. And they can totally be there present, whether they are, you know, running from a tiger, whether they're protecting their family from the big, big bad wolf, whether they're working to earn a living, but it allows them to focus very well on one thing and one thing only. Okay, this is how men are wired. Now, women, on the other hand, if men are like waffles, women are more like spaghetti. Okay, so you think of it like all the noodles and everything, like they're all intertwined, everything's tangled together. You know, you pull it out of the bowl of the pasta and you can't get just one bowl. You keep getting another noodle connected to another, to another, to another. And then you pour a big old messy, you know, ladle full of pasta sauce over the top. And that's what we women look like. Messy and everything is tangled together, right? And again, this is ordained like this from above. This is why women can multitask so well. We do not have that chemical bath that separates and minimizes our ability to multitask. Everything goes together for us. Okay, now, understanding that background, I want you to come back to this. I want you to understand this, okay? If life is a highway, so this is my 8 lanes of life. When we're gonna go through War Week, you're gonna hear about these 8 lanes a lot, okay? But if these right here are my 8 lanes of life, every single area of your life will fit into one of these 8 categories, okay? Now, here's the deal. If you know the song, the Eagles song, Life is a Highway, okay, this is what we're working to create right here. But what we wanna do is we want to get all 8 lanes of our life flowing in the same direction, right? Otherwise, what happens if the lanes are crisscrossing, okay? Well, we're never gonna have flow. We're always gonna have, you know, pile-ups in traffic. We're always gonna have wrecks and fender benders and fatalities, God forbid, on the highway. And we're never going to be able to create flow. We're never going to be able to create synergy. In fact, I'm going to grab a pen. 1 second. I'm going to grab a pen. I want to show you something. Okay. I want to give you a visual here. Okay. Now, I'm going to draw what many of our lives look like. Okay. So if I start off in one area of my life and I've got one area going well, and let's say I'm just in the mood to go this way. Can y'all see that? Okay, there's one area. Now, if I don't have goals and if I haven't done this exercise, then I'm gonna go this way in another area, okay? Then I'm gonna go over here, and now I'm gonna go like this, and then I'm gonna go straight up with one, and I'm gonna go kind of like this with the other. And many, many people live their entire life with their goals and their life areas, their life categories looking like this because they never had the opportunity or the awareness to be able to create a vision, a long-term life vision that allows them to get in alignment with all of the different areas of their life. Are y'all with me on this? Okay, so what do we do with this information? Well, our goal is then to start taking each one of these areas, instead of going this direction, this direction, this direction, I want to then start moving them around, and I want to start shifting some things so that each one of my goals are now moving me in the same direction, so that all of my goals are working together. Not only are they in alignment with each other, but I'm now creating synergy in my life. You know what synergy is, right? It's where the sum total of the end result is greater than that of the individual components. And when I'm doing this, where am I going? I'm going absolutely nowhere. I'm running so hard every day. I'm working so hard, but I finish the day and it's like I was on a treadmill. I never went anywhere. When I can create this instead, and when I can get everything lined up in my life, all of a sudden, there's no resistance. I can create liftoff in my life, right? this is what we're working to do. And this is what the long-term life vision sheet and understanding our life through our 8 lanes concept allows us to do. Okie doke. Now, I want you to move on beyond that. I want you to look at the next 3 columns. Sorry, 4 columns. So you've got 20, 10, 5, and 1. Okay, 20 year, 10 year, 5 year, and 1 year. Why do I start with 20 years? I'll tell you why. Because by definition, 20 years is a lifetime. Okay, by definition, 20 years is a lifetime. What does that mean? Well, it sounds like a very short life to me, right? Sounds like a short life to me too. Because 20 years is a generation. 20 years is a generation. So the other thing to understand is that you can literally create anything you want, anything and everything in life in a time span of 20 years. Anything. You can go from a pauper to a billionaire. You can go from not having any skills to becoming a PhD and mastering any skill. You can learn 90 languages. There is nothing you cannot accomplish in a 20-year span of time. So the reason that I have you start this at 20 years is because whether you say, I'm making these dreams for 20 years from now or 40 years from now, it makes no difference because you get lost in the middle, okay? Anything that you want to do in 40 years, you can also do in 20 years. There's no reason to say it's going to take me 40 years to do X, Y, Z, whatever it is, okay? Now, here's the other thing. It does not matter how old or young you are right now. Anybody can map out goals, plans, and dreams for 20 years. I'll give you an example. We've got women on this live stream right now that are in their 70s. They still got a lot of life ahead of them. They've still got 20 years or more ahead of them. Y'all know that I have a very big life goal with the help of heaven to live to 120. So right now, I am a third of the way through my life according to that goal. Okay, so that means if I want to live to 120, if that's my goal, and you know, I say this all the time, I don't mind, I don't care to die, God forbid, I just don't want it to be my fault. Okay, I want to make sure that I do everything in my power to create and you know, my goal is longevity. I am here to serve my master. I have a lot of goals and a lot of plans and a lot of dreams, and I am very clear on my purpose, and it's going to take me a while to knock it all out. And I also want to be here on this planet for as much time as possible to enjoy all the beautiful gifts that God gave us in creation and to love my family and to laugh a lot. And so I want to milk that as long as possible. So that means I got to take care of my body if I want to live that long. And I don't want to be just hobbling around in a walker or in a nursing home. I want to live, man. I want to be strong and agile. So that's why I do all the things that I do to try to make sure that my shell, my vessel, can keep up with my spirit. Are you with me on this? Okay, so if I know that, if I'm a third of the way through my life right now, according to this goal or plan, that means, okay, so if so going from 40 to 120, 40 to 60, 80, 100, and 120. So that means I could do another, I've got 4 full rounds of these that I can go through using this process. So you are never too old to do this process, okay? The other thing is you're really never too young to do this process. In fact, I know we got one of our friends down in on the by the Great Barrier Reef. Natalie Swaffer lives down in Cairns by the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, and she right now has her teenage daughter as a part of this live stream with her right now. Hi, Maddie. And Maddie is taking this class today as a part of her homeschool course that Natalie has created for her. So if you are a teenager, can you imagine if someone had taught us this stuff when we were teenagers? Oh my gosh, it's like learning the power of compounding interest in your 20s. Okay, so this is what we're talking about here. Now, I'm gonna give you some examples so that you will understand how this works, okay? Because what we're going to do is we are going to literally sit and go through this, and what you would do is you will first sit down and think. You're gonna use the first column, your 20-year column, and you're gonna ask yourself, what would I dream of doing in this category of my life? What would I dream of doing in this category of my life? If I knew I couldn't fail, money and time and resources and skills are no objection whatsoever. Money is no object, time is no object, resources are no object, and skills are no object. Why? Because you got 20 years, for heaven's sakes. Okay? The only thing standing between you and yourself, between you and your goals 20 years from now, is your belief system. Remember what we talked about last week and the week before? It is physically impossible to outperform your beliefs. So if I don't believe it's possible, then my subconscious won't actually let me go to work to create it. Because the subconscious, remember what we talked about last week, the subconscious mind is wired as a self-preservation mechanism. It is wired to protect you. So the subconscious mind will always, always, always drive you away from pain and toward pleasure. So this is why you will many, many times quit a goal long before you fail. You will quit because your subconscious says, oh, I was never going to do it anyway. We're not going to succeed anyway. It's never going to work. My mother told me it'll never work. My neighbor told me it'll never work. What was I thinking? Why did I even try? I should have known better. And that is your subconscious. That self-talk is kicking up and kicking in as a self-preservation mechanism, because that is how it has been programmed since you were a child. So part of our job, in fact, our biggest job to accomplish any of this stuff, is to go to work on ourselves, to go to work on our subconscious, on our self-talk, on our inner programming, because that is going to be your ticket. That's going to be your make or break piece to anything that you want in life. And of course, in the span of 20 years, you got plenty of time to do that, right? So again, that is why the 20-year mark is the easiest and best one to start with, because you don't have to worry about fear of failure or a fear of lack of resources, lack of anything, because you can create anything and everything you want with a 20-year window of time. Okay, so here's how I would do this. I would say, for example, with my family, what would I dream of creating in the next 20 years? I knew I couldn't fail. If money were not a limitation and I could do anything and everything I want, what would I want to do? I'll give you an example for one of mine. Back when my son was a newborn, I read this book that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. It's by Tim Ferriss, and it's called The 4-Hour Workweek. And it was the first time 4-hour work week. Okay, not 4-hour day, 4-hour work week. And he gives you all these ideas in the book of how you can duplicate and outsource and set yourself up. Now, you can't really do this if you're necessarily an employee, but if you're an entrepreneur or a contractor or something like this, maybe if you've got an amazing boss that could work as an employee. But the concept that I read about in the book was literally traveling the world. You know, I read this book, I guess, 10 years ago, something like that. And you're traveling the world with your cell phone and your laptop, and you can go anywhere. So why would you want to be limited to just one spot? And that was when I first got the dream in my head of traveling the world with my family taking my son along with me and allowing the world to be his classroom, as opposed to just learning outdated theories from a textbook. So for example, when he's learning about the American Revolution, or the Civil War, then we can pick up and we can go and we can spend a month on the East Coast going up and down and looking at all of the sites and the battlefields and the wars and the museums and the artifacts. Or, we can learn about the South Pacific, and we can get on a plane and we can go. And, these are things that I've done with him many times, taking him to many continents and allowing him to learn of the different cultures. And life means something different to him because he has lived the globe. This kid has had more stamps on his passport by the age of 9 than most people ever have in their lifetime. Okay, so that was one of my goals, one of my long-term goals for my family, just to give you an example, okay? Now, an easy way of something that is very helpful here on these is, if you're not exactly sure, if you've got kids now, you can go across the top of each of these categories, 20, 10, 5, and 1, and write down the ages of your kids, of how old they would be at each of these time increments. Maybe you want to do something with your grandkids. Maybe you want to do, maybe it's real estate. Maybe you want to have a vacation home, or you want to, sail around the world for a year, or you want to learn a different language. Now, I'm going to go through here and I'm going to give you some things to consider and things that I have learned are helpful to many people across all of the times that we have done this. Okay, when you're looking at your spiritual lane, okay, again, this would be your own faith, okay, what your beliefs are, how you want to grow in your faith, how you want to grow in your spiritual life, in your trust, your belief, your connection to your creator, okay, whatever that would mean to you. Okay, the next one, your second category is your family. So this could be your most immediate family of your spouse, your kids. It could be your extended family. I work with a number of women that they have kids and grandkids already. And so they have, dreams of getting together once or twice a year. They want to rent a house in Hawaii, and they want to pay for the whole family to come over and have a big reunion. Or they want to go skiing in the winter, or, where they want to be able to bring all the family together and no one having to worry about time and money to be able to get together. Maybe you want to be able to put your kids through college or university without worrying about the enrollment fees. Maybe you want to be able to pay for taking care of your parents as they begin to age. Okay, whatever family means to you. Okay, now profession, we've already talked about that. That would be your career goals or your professional development. Okay, personal development. What does personal development mean? Well, I'm thinking that most of y'all know what this means because you're already here as a part of this tribe. But this means a combination of your character and your skills and your tools that will be necessary for you to become the person you want to be. Okay, that's what personal development is all about. Now, if you have any questions about this as I'm going through it, please stop me, okay? Please feel free to ask. Now, what about your physical health? Well, that's an obvious one, okay? But maybe it took me a long time, only in the last 5 years, I would say, did I finally really, really, really understand, like for me, that physical health does not just mean what the scale says about you and whether or not you're in the hospital. Okay, just because you're not in the hospital and you're, whatever the scale says, that does not make or break your health. Okay, so we're going to actually talk about it in this on this Thursday's Quick Tip Thursday. Our topic is holistic wellness and why I believe that's one of my most critical keys to my goal of longevity. And it's probably a little bit different than what you might think, but we're going to go through that on Quick Tip Thursday, so I'm not going to go into that a lot right now. But whatever physical health means to you, maybe you want to run a marathon, maybe you want to be a bodybuilder, maybe you want to become a black belt in karate, maybe you want to lose 30 pounds, maybe you want to learn yoga, maybe you want to walk without a walker, maybe you want your knees to stop hurting, maybe you want to get your vision back. Okay, there's lots and lots of things that health could mean. Okay, the other thing too to keep in mind about health is not just a physical component. From a holistic wellness perspective, health is the whole package: emotional, physical, mental, psychological, all of that rolls up into health. For this specific category, we're talking about your physical health, okay? And when I'm talking about my emotional, spiritual health, I usually lump that into my spiritual category on this worksheet. You can do it however you want. Maybe you want to put it under personal development. It's totally up to you. Okay? Now, is everybody with me? Everybody with me so far? Let me know you're still with me. Some here, so I can see we're still there. Okay. Lane number 6 is your financial health. Okay, now here's the thing about financial health. And people ask me a lot of times, well, what's the difference between your financial health and your career? Well, your career lane, your professional lane would be how you bring the money in. Your financial would be what you do with the money. Make sense? Thank you, Vanessa, for letting me know you're still here. Thank you, Carmen. Hey, Lanita, excellent. Okay, y'all are too busy scribbling to talk to me. I get it. Okay, you're not hurting my feelings. Don't worry. Now, you know, you've heard the old saying that wealth is not just how much you make, but it's also about how much you keep, right? Or how much you're able to give. So, of course, we know the more you make, the more you can give. The more you have, the more you can give. You can't give away what you don't have. You cannot teach what you do not know. You cannot lead where you do not go. And you cannot give away what you do not have. So when we're looking at our financial lane, we're talking about how we would manage our funds, how we would grow our funds, how we would allocate, distribute, et cetera, et cetera. Got it? Okay. Now, lane number 7, social life and adventures. Now, for many, many, many years, I only had social life here. And I think it must have been because I was in a phase of my life where I just wasn't having much fun, period. And then finally one day I woke up and I looked at this and it was like, duh. All of a sudden it was so clear to me that I needed to have some fun in my life, and adventures and a spirit of fun and joy were just missing. So I put it under social life and adventures. So whatever that means for you, but your way of just life and having fun and having a spirit of adventure and exploration and experimentation and just getting out and loving your life, loving your world, loving yourself, and just having fun. Because as you know, being happy is very important. Okay? Now, last but not least, community. So this would be your community involvement and your philanthropic work, your charity work, whatever that would be. Now, of course, you and I both know that you could start your own charities. You can participate in charities, and it doesn't even have to be a monetary thing. It could be giving of time. You know, it requires much more of your soul to give your labor, your physical labor or your emotional labor than it requires just to write a check. Because if you write a check, you can stay at an arm's distance away. But to really roll up your sleeve and give your blood, sweat, and tears to someone in need, that's a whole different ballgame. Okay, so those are the 8 lanes. Is everybody clear on what those are? Now, we've already talked about how to ask yourself the 20-year question, right? So you would go literally through each one of these. This is where I would start. And this exercise right here is something that I do every single year as a part of my war week. I do it in detail every single year, and then I review it on a very regular basis, at least once a month. Okay, now what do you do after that? Here's the part that is not intuitive. Okay, I do not want you to just go 20, 10, 5, 1. It's not what I want you to do. I want you to go from 20, and I want you to jump all the way over to the last lane. I want you to jump all the way over to your 1-year vision. Now, I reckon that this process here would take you, I would spend at least an hour on it solid. And then I would go back and revisit it and work on it again for another hour a couple of times. And if you spend 3 different 1-hour chunks on this with time to think and meditate and pray and reflect and brainstorm and really look inside, it will really give you a very good picture. And I also recommend that you do this in pencil because it is a work in progress and you will want to tweak it many, many times. Of course, you now have the hard copy, the electronic copy, so you can do this as many times as you want. So I'm going to give you some framework here, okay? Now, I'm going to show you 2 of my examples. This is an example of one that I did in 2017. And in 2017, we were living in Australia and we were getting ready to start working on coming back to the US. So if you can see here, I had a big gap at my 20-year. I was able to do 1, 5, and 10, but I sat for a long time with a big gap in these categories under my 20-year vision because I went through a phase where I really did not have clarity on who I wanted to be. Now, if you look up here at the top, you can see I put the years, okay? So I put, so I started in this was a 2017, okay? So then it would have been, 10 years, 5 years, 2037, 1 year would have been 2018, 5 year, 2022. And then look at in the pencil. I don't know if you can see. But at the top, I also, not only just my kids' ages, but I also put my age of how old I would be at each one of these categories, because that was also very helpful for me to make it real. Okay, when I'm 60 years old, who do I want to be? What do I want to have accomplished? What do I want to be under my belt already? Now, this is one that I did just this last year. This is my most current one. Okay, so would it be helpful for you if I gave y'all some examples from my own life vision? Okay. Let's see, where do I want to start? Okay, in our family lane, I'll give you, let's see here. Family lane, well, we want to have more kids. That's a very big goal. In my career, y'all know that I am working to open a food company. So that's a very, very big goal that I have. And I have that spread across all 20 years, actually, of how that's going to grow and expand beyond foods and then into other areas of wellness. And then I have some things over here about real estate development, but that's not until 10 years because I've got so many things to focus on in the next 10 years. I'm not thinking about that for right now. I've got some things to do over here with organic farming and land leasing. For my 20-year goal, I said I want to have spas and wellness centers around the world. Here's a good one. In personal development, in 20 years from now, I want to be fluent in 5 languages to keep my brain sharp and allow me to impact more people. Let's see, in 5 years, I want to have an all-women's yoga and meditation retreat. In 1 year, in 10 years, I want to look and feel younger than I did at 40. So when I get to 50, I want to look and feel younger than I did at 40. Let's see. In my financial lane, I've got some goals about net worth, investments. Let's see. What does that say? I'm reading my own handwriting. Oh, I want to pay cash for some things. Okay, and my adventures lane, I have some vacations. Oh, for my 5-year vision, I want to hike to the Grand Canyon. Like I want to hike down the Grand Canyon and sleep in a tent by the waterfalls. There are these most majestic waterfalls at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. And the only way you can get there is on foot. So I want to hike there. I'm going to drag my husband along with me. I want to hike there and camp in a tent by those majestic waterfalls at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. My husband said, well, why do we got to wait 5 years for that? I said, well, it takes 3 years to get on the waiting list to even get one, to even be able to go down there. So it's going to take a while. So don't get excited. Let's see. Oh, y'all want to hear? Here's a fun one. Okay. For my 10-year goal, I want to travel the world on a yacht for a year. And I want to run contests with people like y'all, and the winners of the contest, like once a quarter or something, I'm going to fly you to spend a week with me on the yacht. How does that sound? Who wants to come? Okay, let's see. Y'all with me? Y'all still there? Am I talking to myself? Okay, philanthropy. We all know that we're working on opening a school. So I've got we have the pilot school going. So we're working on a global school system. So I want to be able to put those all around the world. And of course, we want to be able to do from preschool all the way up even to postgraduate work. And there are a few books that I want to write. And I want some of these books to be for nonprofit sector and just to be used as fundraising capacities. And I want to build a mentorship and an apprenticeship program that would be globally recognized. So I'm giving you just lots and lots of different examples so that you can kind of see where my head is, where my focus is. Okay, yours could be entirely and totally different, and it probably will and should be. But that just is to kind of get your wheel spin, to give you some ideas. Remember, the only limit on your achievement in 20 years is the limit on your thinking. Okay? So, what are the things that you want to do? I have a lot over here for the empowerment of women and children. I have a lot over here for the state of Israel. I have a lot over here on education and personal development. I know for myself. Now, let me tell you a couple other things. Any questions? Oh, good. Lisa's dreaming about the yacht. I'm happy to hear that. Okay, there are 2 last points that I want to share with you. And before we do that, I've got a couple of announcements. I want to make sure that we're on the same page, and I'm going to share with you my last couple of points, and we're going to do our drawing to see who's going to get the first copy of the time management ebook. Okay, we've got 2 remaining MAP sessions next week at exactly this time. It's all about how to get your family on board with your goals. So once you got this sucker ready, then we got to get your family on board, right? So that's what we're going to do next week. And then the final session of MAP on May 18th, we're going to do why, what, and how to track, and how it will make or break you. And that is such a critical piece that many, 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 many women underestimate the power and the necessity for tracking. Okay, so that's going to be our final week, May 18th. Now, those are Mondays. Remember, the Mondays, what you're on right now, these are intense, in-depth coaching. Whereas our Thursday session, Quick Tip Thursday, are exactly what they sound. They're very quick, 10 minutes or less. Okay, and I'm going through, y'all, if you've seen it on my website or you've seen it on this Facebook page, I've got 4 major passions in life that I'm so motivated and excited about sharing. One of them is how anyone and everyone can become superhuman. The second one is about holistic wellness and why it's the key to longevity. The third one is about, what's my third one? A thriving family unit. And then the fourth one is all about revolutionizing education to raise the next generation of leaders. So on each of our 4 Quick Tip Thursdays, I'm going to share with you in 10 minutes or less quick tips on each one of those concepts. Okay, now let's wrap up our long-term life vision. I want you to know that I keep these in my binder that goes with me everywhere. Now, I'm going to teach you all about the binder, what goes in the binder, how to use your own binder, why I use the binder. I'm going to teach you all of that in time management course, but you should know that these go with me everywhere. I have a category in my binder, a section that's called dreams, and this goes in my dreams section. And I also keep the past ones so that I can go back and I can look, compare, measure, track, and of course we're going to talk about tracking in 2 weeks, but all of that is alive for me in my binder. And the other thing that you should know about these is that whenever I am thinking or brainstorming or I become aware of a new skill I want or need to develop, or a new goal that I want to set, I just write it down somewhere. I usually write it either in my spiral notebook, which again you'll learn about in time management, or I write it even just in the margin. Like over here in the margin, can you see I've got like some notes and things to myself? And these are just things so that every time I go back and look at this, I'll remember it. And so then the next time that I'm sitting down to update or tweak or recreate my life vision, then it's there and I know to incorporate it. So for example, one of the things that I have written down over here in the margin is acupuncture. I've been a casual follower. I've been a consumer of acupuncture for probably 4 years. I started piddling with doing acupuncture myself about 3 years ago. But I only can do it if someone tells me exactly where to put the needle. Like I can do it at home, I can watch on a YouTube video and I can do it myself and wow, it works like crazy wonders, but I want to actually learn it. So again, right, I'm right now at desire. So we're at the first of 5 level 5s on the skill mastery. I'm just at desire. So I've got that written down over here in my margin. So next time I go to start tweaking this, which I'll do again in just a couple of months, then I'll make sure and incorporate that into my long-term life vision. And just like we talked about last week, you've got to give yourself permission to pivot, right? Give yourself permission to change your mind or change your goals, completely throw some out, bring in new ones or tweak them or rearrange them. It's totally fine. It's your life. It's your dream. This is your canvas. This is your artwork. You can make it whatever you want, right? Okay, now, last thing, how often do I do this? Like I said, I create this chart annually during my war week, which we'll talk about. We'll talk about war week during war week, but when I'm teaching you time management, I'll even show you how to block out and plan in advance for a war week so that you're ready for it. And then I review my chart at least monthly during my monthly strategy session, which my monthly strategy session for the month of May is in 2 days from now. And I will sit down and I'll review all my goals and I'll look at where am I holding against what I had planned for 2020, where am I behind, what do I need to catch up on, what do I need to tweak, and I'll teach you how to do all of that as well during our time management course. Okay? So let's open it up for questions. Has this been helpful for you? I really, really, really hope so, because it's one of my very, very favorite things to do in the whole wide world. Now, if you've joined us since the beginning and you did not have the worksheet, I'm putting a link to it again right now at the bottom red. So you can click on that link and you can download a copy and you can catch up if you'd like. Okay, Jamie has a question from Denver. She says, should the life vision goals be very specific? Mine is a little vague and broad. It can be as specific or vague as you want them to be, Jamie, but I would tell you that for the long-term goals, it's very okay if they're vague. If you start out with kind of a rough idea, and then you whittle them in, but for your 1 year goals, of course, they need to be very specific or else we'll never accomplish them because it's too short of a time frame to be vague. Does that make sense? Great. Any other questions? Okay. Natalie, thank you. She asked me, why did I go from 20 years to 1 year? So that is a very important question. Here's why. 20 years, you can do, again, nothing is stopping you in 20 years, right? So why then do you jump to 1 year? Here's why. You're going to ask yourself the question, what do I believe I can reasonably obtain with 12 months of consistent effort toward that long-term goal? Let me say that again. Okay, you're going to ask yourself, what results do I believe that I could reasonably create with 12 months of consistent effort toward my long-term goal? And that's what you're going to put down at your 1 year mark. That's where you want to be 12 months from now. Okay? You took the pressure off. You're not saying I got to go, gangbusters. You're being honest with yourself. What could I reasonably create with 12 months of consistent effort toward my long-term goal? Then guess what you have? Then you've got your bookends, right? You've got your long-term and your short-term. You've got your 20-year and your 1 year. So then all you have to do in between is do the math. So for example, if I'm looking at now, I know halfway between 1 and 20 is 10. So I have an idea, and again, it may be vague, and that's okay. I have a rough idea of where I want to be in 10 years, and then I just divide that in half again and look at where I want to be in 5 years. Okay, it's also important to understand that don't stress out if you don't have every single box filled in the first time you go through this. Okay, remember, you're leaning into it, you're starting ugly, it's a work in progress. The more you do it, the more comfortable you'll become with it. And remember, for a long time, I lived with these few categories completely open for my 20 years because I didn't have clarity yet in that phase. Okay, let's see. Natalie, does that answer your question? Okay, now other Natalie Swaffer, you said, please share your binder categories. Hang on, I gotta get my laptop charger. My laptop's about to go dead, and that would not be good for anybody. Okay, Natalie, you said, please share your binder categories. I'm gonna share those with you during the time management course, okay? Now, Amy says, you said you were unsure about where you were headed or who you wanted to be. What resource, tools, exercises did you use or do to discover and uncover this? I feel lost in the woods right now. Oh my gosh, Amy, this is such a great question. And I can't tell you the number of times I have been asked this question in the last 60 days. I don't know if it's something with the pandemic and people are just, questioning everything and reconsidering everything. But there are some books that are out there that are supposed to help you like align your gifts and your talents and your skills. Blah, blah, blah. I've read them, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not such a fan. They didn't do it for me. I'm sure they're great books for other people. Just for me, they didn't resonate. But here's what I can tell you, that in today's day and age, there is no reason that we cannot live within our passion and our purpose. Now, discovering that is a different ballgame. But like we were saying a little while ago, that, our parents, like our parents, their grandparents, it was a different world back then. You just did what you did. The world was a smaller place. And you provided for your family, and you rocked in the rocking chair, and you hopefully made it to retirement, and that was the end. But only since, the 1950s was there even such a thing as retirement. That is a new phenomenon. So why people think they have to hit 65 and then, quit whatever they're doing, and then what do? Their minds and their bodies start to atrophy, and they die much quicker. So this is not about, slaving away and working for the man until you die. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is finding out what makes you tick. Like, what is the song of your soul? So how do we find that? It's such a great question. So here's what I believe. It's an intersection of three things. It's an intersection of what you love to do. So spend some time and ask yourself, what are some things that I love doing so much that I would do them for free? I do them in my own time. I do them because they give me life. They give me joy. What are those things? Then the second thing I would look at is, how can I use those things to make a difference in the world around me? What kind of impact can I make in the world doing those things that I love? And then the third spoke in the wheel, if you will, is the finances. So how can I monetize that thing? So if you look at almost like it's an intersection of supply and demand, right? So you're looking at the intersection of things I love to do, how I can use those things to make a difference, and how I can then monetize them. Because in today's world, you can literally make money doing anything. Y'all, no joke, over the last 2 weeks, I don't even know how it ended up in my feed, but in my social media feed, there are ads for a dude teaching people how to do handstands. He is selling a program on how to do a proper handstand. And guess what? People are buying it, okay? You can make money doing anything today if you will learn how to master online marketing. Okay, again, what is that? Maybe it's a new skill that you have to learn your 5 phases of skill mastery. Okay, but if you look at those 3 things, now I want to say one last thing about this. If you're looking at the things that you love to do, how they make a difference in the world around you, and how you monetize them, go back to the things that you want to do. I'm not talking about, it doesn't have to be something like, I want to solve world hunger. It doesn't have to be that I want to, build orphanages all around the world. It could be something like, maybe you love fashion design, and maybe you're tired of everybody, walking around the street like streetwalkers. So maybe you want to be able to design modest clothing at an affordable price. That is helping a lot of people. So what have you done? You have figured out a way to do what you love, which is fashion design, how to help people because it's modest and it's affordable. And number 3, you can make a killing doing it. Now that's just one tiny little example, but you get the idea. Okay, so if you can look at those 3 things, then the last piece of it is, do you want to do it working for someone else, or do you want to do it working for yourself? There's no right or wrong. Either one is fine. It will just give you different parameters on how you would go about creating that space. Does that make sense? Does that help? Woo! It has been a power hour, hasn't it, my friends? It has been 81 minutes of hardcore meat and potatoes content where we are digging deeper together. This has been so much fun. I hope you have loved it as much as I have loved it. I really, really love getting to spend time with you, and I love more than anything helping you to wage war on mediocrity and create a life that you absolutely dream of. So if there's anything that you could do to help me as a result at the end of our time together, the only thing that you could do is to share this with everyone that you know and love and care about, the other women in your life that are hungry and determined, because rising waters lift all boats. And if we can all work together and wage war on the mediocrity around us together, we're going to win that battle, and we're going to create a world of passion, purpose, excellence, and joy. I love you guys.